Alrighty, boys and girls, welcome back to Tone on a Budget. Bouger. I'm Greg, and this is where I talk about gear that comes through here, because there's a lot of it goes through this little room here. Because I buy, sell, and trade a ton of gear all the time. I'm always looking for deals. I'm always trying out new stuff, sometimes old stuff. And I think it's about time I do a review on this puppy right here. This is the Blackstar Venue Series. It is the Stage 60 MK2 212. Now, let me start by saying that these amps are really fantastic. I like the Blackstars a lot. They do cut some corners, though, in order to keep the amplifiers affordable. And one of the corners that they cut, which I don't get, because if they were to go with what we all end up doing with these things, the cost to the end user wouldn't be that much more than it already is, and that's the speakers. The speakers they put in these things suck. Period. They put a Celestion 7080 in these these amplifiers, and they are the worst sounding speaker that Celestion makes. It's a cheap budget speaker. It probably would be good in a modeling amp because it's a real flat response speaker. It can't handle a whole lot of wattage. When you push them, they get real muddy and sound real crappy real quick. At lower volumes, they're not too bad. But you buy a tube amp, you want to drive those tubes, and in order to drive the tubes, you got to crank the dang thing. So that being said, you got to change the speakers on these things. I've swapped out a few different speakers on these. I tried Eminence GB128s. I've tried the I had a set of Carvin British voice in here. I tried the Celestion Vintage 30s, which I liked. Other than with this amp, it's got a goofy thing going on the high mid that actually it hurt my ears. I could feel it piercing my eardrums. I didn't like it, so I ended up taking the Vintage 30s out. I had a Classic 80 in here. I've rolled some speakers through here and I've tested them, and oddly enough, and this is a speaker that is debated all the time. Some guys really like it, some guys don't. But it is the most popular speaker in speaker cabinets and combo amplifiers in the world, and has been since, I want to say, the 80s. Certainly the 90s, and that is the Celestion G12T75. It has been the stock speaker in the Marshall 1960 A and B cabinets, the 412s, for 40 years. Now, in order for a company to stick with a particular speaker for that long in a one of their, most popular speaker cabinets. In fact, it is their most popular speaker cabinet. The 1960A, which is the 412 with the slant. The second set on top of the bottom is slanted on the cabinet. Y'all know it. You've all seen it. And then the 1960B is just the straight with the front baffle slightly slanted. Those two speaker cabinets, the 1960 A and B, have been coming with the Celestion G12 T75 for over 40 years. So that's what I ended up with in here. And to me, to my ears, it's what sounded the best out of all of the speakers I've had in this particular amplifier. And like I just named several. I've had several pairs of speakers. I've tried different combinations. I've done all kinds of stuff with available speakerage, and what I came up with that ended up sounding best across the board um, was the G12T75. Anyway, so let's get to the sound of this thing. What does this thing sound like? First of all, this is a 60-watt amplifier. It's got two 12-inch speakers in it. It's got power and standby. It's got a basic, the overdrive channel. All the voices share. Uh, 3-band EQ with this goofy, what do they call it? ISF switch, infinite, whatever the heck it is. What it does is when you turn it, it changes the EQ profile. I like it all the way over to the left. I think all the way to the right is more of a British sound supposedly, and to the left is more of an American sound. Whatever. The amplifier is loaded with EL34s in the power section and 12AX7s in the preamp section. Two and two 12AX7s and two EL34s. That's another thing I did was I went and I rolled a bunch of tubes in this thing, and I tried several brands of tubes. Now I've had this amp for quite a while, so I've been playing with it for some time. And I started messing with it before the tube shortage because of the war in the Ukraine and the pandemic and everything. And what I ended up with, I tried Russian tubes, I tried Slovak tubes, and I tried Chinese tubes. All of the available brands of tubes, and that would be JJ Shiguang. I've had Tongue Souls in here. I've had Sotex in here. I've had Svetlana's in here. I've had Electro Harmonics in here. All of those come out of the same factory in Russia, in Saratov, Russia. That's the New Sensor factory, and it's owned by the guy who owns Electro Harmonics. I think his name's Dave Matthews. So all those brands are coming out of the same factory, but they are all different, tubes, and they do sound different. So I've tried all these tubes, both in the power and preamp. One thing you should know is if you want to do that on your own, biasing the power tubes is really, really easy through lights on the back of the amplifier and little bitty pots that you put your screwdriver on. You do not have to remove the chassis to do it. Anyone can do it if you follow the instructions. So you can do your own tube rolling. You don't have to take it to a tech to bias the power tubes, and you can try things out for yourself. Here's what I ended up with. I've got a set of Ruby EL34s installed in the power section, which I believe Ruby just rebrands their tubes. They don't make any tubes. They buy and they test, and then the ones that are worthy get the Ruby brand name. So these have the Ruby brand name. I believe they're Chinese Shiguang EL34s that are just Ruby branded. And I have some Shiguang branded Chinese 12X7s in the power section. Believe it or not, the Chinese tubes are what ended up sounding best in this amplifier. Now, when these things first came out, that's what they shipped with. They were coming with the Chinese tubes in it. So I believe that when the engineers were putting these together, they were talking about using Chinese tubes for keeping the price down, because the Shiguangs were the least expensive tubes on the market. The Shiguang factory has since burned down. Shiguang engineers were not able to get a new factory up. It's not up and running yet. They did find a new location, but the Chinese government has not allowed them to go into business yet. So the Chinese guys from Shiguang started a new company called Psvain something. I don't know how it's pronounced. They're making tubes with this, they look the same as the Shiguangs. You can tell when you look at the 12AX7s. Design-wise, they're the same. The Shiguang 12AX7s are very different looking than any other 12AX7 on the market, except this vein. And that's what's out there now, and they're a little more expensive than what the Shiguangs were. But that being said, I've got a set of Shiguangs that I bought years ago. I keep tubes around so that I can do these kinds of things with when I get an amplifier, try different tubes and see what sounds best. The Shiguangs sound best in this thing. This thing cooks. Anyway, here we go. Let's kick off the standby. And I also should tell you that, oh, hold on. I digressed. You have a clean channel with two voices, and actually the second voice on the clean channel is kind of a crunchy. It does start to break up. The first channel is super clean, and you can run pedals through it. You can do whatever you want with the first voice on the clean channel. The second voice is crunchy. It has its own EQ, treble and bass. I have those set at noon. They're at 12 o'clock, right? Straight up, halfway. It has a volume, and I have the volume on this channel set at 11 o'clock. All right. Then you move over here. You have the volume and gain settings for the next two channels. You have two crunch channels, or dirt channels, distortion channels, overdrive channels, whatever you want to call them. Our meat and potatoes are right here, okay? The dirt channel 1, I have the, let's see, the first one is the gain. The first one is the gain, and I have that set at about 10 o'clock. The second one is the volume, and I have that set just before noon. And then on channel 2 for the crunch channel, I have the gain set at 2 o'clock, and the actually that's more like between 2 and 3, and the volume is set right at 2 o'clock. All right. On the EQ, the bass is set at 10 o'clock. The mid is set at 1 o'clock. The treble is set at 12 o'clock, and the ISF is set all the way rolled to the left. I have a little bit of reverb on it right now. That's just above 9 o'clock. And then on the master, you have presence and what is the other one? What is it? Resonance. Okay, so presence and resonance. What these do, these are like an IQ. These are like an EQ for your power tubes. They determine how much high and low end the power tubes are going to be putting out. So I have them. The bottom side I've got set. It's about 11 o'clock, and on the presence, that's the resonance is at 11. The presence is at noon here, and then the master volume right here is set at 10 o'clock. Okay, so it's not very loud. This amp will get very, 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 very loud. It's a screamer. Then we have this switch, which sets your it can knock down the wattage output to, I believe it's what is it, 6 watts. It'll do 6 watts or it'll do 60 watts. Right now, we're at 60 watts. Okay, but we're not putting out 60 watts because I only have the master volume up at 10 o'clock. Okay, so now let's get to the sound of this thing, shall we? All right. We're on the clean channel. I've got my Ibanez Gem, and I'm just going to be using, these pickups are kind of bright, so I have the tone set at 5, and the volume is cranked to 10. I am on the bridge pickup, and that's pretty much where I'm going to stay. Okay, that is on, I believe, voice 2. No, that was voice 1. This is voice 2 of the clean channel. You can see it starts to get a little gritty there. Okay, and you can hear the reverb. The reverb sounds pretty lush. It has a switch on the back that can make the reverb light or dark. I don't even remember where I have it set. Okay, let's go to the next channel. All right, this is the first dirt channel. The dirt channels also have 2 voices apiece. You basically got, it's like having 6 channels. The voices change the EQ profile of the channel slightly, and the boost as well. Voice 2 is always a little grittier, a little more boosted than voice 1. So I'm just going to be, on these, I'm going to be using voice 2 just to give you an idea of what's going on. Okay, now I'm going to go to the second overdrive channel. Oh! Okay, there you go. That's the Blackstar Venue Series Stage 60 MK2 212. This thing is a screaming amplifier. You get the right speakers and the right tubes in it, and this thing just cooks. I like it a lot, and this one will stay in my arsenal for a long time to come, unless something happens and I have to come up with some money. This thing is staying right here because this thing sounds great. And you can see I've got my Sennheiser E609 down here picking up the speaker. Man, as far as affordable tube amps go, this one's top of my list. If you want something that's got a lot of gain, that'll do heavy metal, do classic rock, do clean channels, get like almost a plexi type sound. You could almost, I think, on the clean, the first clean voice, you could probably plug an acoustic guitar into this thing if you needed to. It gets really loud. So anyway, God bless, peace. Thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful, and I hope I didn't talk too much. I know I talked a lot through this one, but Blackstar, good job, guys. Thanks. I'm having fun with this one. All right, kids. Peace out.